Most retirement conversations are about saving enough, but today we're talking about the other side of that. What happens when you've saved, you're there in retirement, and you still cannot bring yourself to spend that money you've been saving? It's more common than people admit, and it can quietly rob you of the retirement you worked so hard to build.
Welcome to the My Retirement Clarity Podcast, where our goal is simple: to help you close the gap between what you know and what you implement. The team at Perkins Wealth Management does this by helping good people make great decisions so they can enjoy an amazing retirement. And now, here's your host and financial advisor, Lee Perkins.
This is My Retirement Clarity. Glad to have you once again. I'm Ben George with Lee Perkins, owner and financial advisor at JL Perkins Wealth Management in Macon, Georgia. Find them online at myretirementclarity.com. Lee, welcome in. I like today's conversation because I think many people overlook this mindset shift and don't realize how difficult it is to go from save to, all right, now let's start pulling out of those accounts that we've been working so hard on.
Absolutely. And I think if you just kind of polled people around Macon that know me and, some of my clients, they know that one of my big themes in being a financial planner is trying to give people the permission and the evidence behind why you should spend your money and enjoy it. Because, man, sometimes it's tough for people to do that and they save for a rainy day, and a lot of times that rainy day never comes and people die with a whole lot of money and never got to enjoy it. So that is absolutely opposite of what I want to happen for all of my clients.
Yeah, so we're going to get into why this happens and what you can actually do about it to make sure that you don't have the same holdup that other people have. And look, it's only natural and happens quite a bit, which is why we're talking about it today. So let's start with why it does actually happen, Lee. What's the main reason why this actually happens to people that get into retirement and say, "Oh, I just don't want to spend that money"?
Yeah, I think the number one thing is people are just scared of running out of money, and that's, I think, no matter how much money somebody has, that people that have $300,000 have that fear, and I've got people that have $6 million that have that same fear. So the money doesn't really change people's opinion. I think probably a lot of it is past experience. We still have people that we know, whether it's parents or grandparents, that were around during the Great Depression, and maybe they've seen some of that and lived some of that, and they're like, I don't want to do that again. And then that attitude on money is sort of passed down from generation to generation. And if you grow up in a household where your parents told you, man, you got to save that money, save it, don't spend it, you got to save it for a rainy day. When you go to retire, that voice is going to echo in your head, and it doesn't matter sometimes what somebody like me tells them. It's going to be tough for them to spend money.
It is going to be tough for sure. And so I know you mentioned that running out of money is kind of the biggest thing there. What holds up people the most? Like, what is it, maybe emotionally or psychologically that just kind of keeps them from actually pulling that money out of their account and spending it on vacations or travel, whatever they want to do?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it is just a misunderstanding of the basics of cash flow, which is just money in, money out, and knowing how much money you got coming in, where that's coming from. That's really important, and that's a pretty easy thing for us to figure out, because we can look at somebody's Social Security, their income. We can look at their pensions if they're getting all that. We can set up a distribution. But man, if you don't know how much money you spend every month, that can make things a little bit of a challenge, and you don't feel comfortable with spending what you need to, or what you can, or what you should. And so when we're going through the process of taking a new person through the cash flow planning and everything that we do prior to somebody onboarding with us, we want to get a really good hold of how much their expenses are, what they spend now, what we think they're going to spend when they retire, or if they're already retired, are they comfortable with the income and expense ratio, and do we think they're in a good spot? Because I just want to give people the confidence that they can spend without the fear of having to go back to work as a greeter at Walmart, which is sometimes what people say. There's nothing wrong with being a greeter at Walmart, because I know there are people that do that because they want to be around people and they do it just for that kind of energy, a little bit of people energy. They're not doing it for the $15 an hour that they would make there. So I want people to work in retirement because they want to, not because they have to.
How much does it fall on just feeling guilty for spending, Lee? Do people ever have that feeling as well? Because I know a lot of people that are saving are doing so because they have other goals of helping others or passing that money along to family or friends or organizations that are important.
Yeah, the guilt definitely comes into play. I would tell you I'm probably seeing this a little bit less over the last probably 4 or 5 years than I did prior to that. And maybe it's a COVID thing because, COVID, it was obviously a weird time for all of us. But even though the market dropped like 30% in 15 days or whatever it is, I had a few people that were nervous about the market, but people were worried about living. And so they weren't as concerned about their money. They didn't know if they were going to live or not. And so I don't know if that's what changed once COVID happened. But prior to COVID, I had people who were really hesitant to spend money because they so much wanted to leave money to their kids. And I think most people want to do that. That's still a good thing that a lot of people want to do. But I run into probably more people now. They're like, hey, I want to take care of me. Me and my wife, we're number one. We're the first priority. We're not going to be reckless with the money. We're not going to blow it, but we'll give the kids what is left. But we're not going to sacrifice in retirement just to leave them a big pot of money. And that is still a struggle for some people. I have some clients that I think do without, and not do without stuff, but do without some life experiences or things that they could do that I know they could afford because they feel like they're taking away an inheritance from their children. And if the kids were honest with the parents, in which my brother and I have done this with my parents, we're like, I don't need your money when you pass away. I'd love for you guys to just enjoy it as much as you can. Because whoever you leave your money to at the end of the day, they are not going to appreciate that money the way that you did because they didn't work for it. You did. So if you worked for it and you earned it, give yourself permission to spend. And if you buy something, don't feel bad about it. That's what it's there for. You can't. You like the saying goes, you can't take it with you. Hey folks, Lee Perkins here. I wanted to tell you about our brand new book called Next Phase, How to Retire in a Year or Less Without Regrets. It's all about helping you prepare for the next phase of your life, whatever that looks like for you. So, if you're ready to make the most of your next phase, or if you're already retired and aren't sure you're doing all you can to get the most out of your retirement, then you'll want a copy of this book. All you have to do is text Next Phase to 478-475-2050 and we'll send you a copy right away. You can also access additional resources and register for one of our upcoming workshops at our website, www.myretirementclarity.com. Thanks for listening. Now back to the show.
What can you do about this then, Lee? For anyone that maybe is in this boat and going, yeah, man, I this is the way I feel, or I know that when I get in retirement, I'm going to be a little bit worried about spending. What can you actually do about it now?
Yeah, I think that, like I've referenced earlier, the knowing the income expenses, and that's just a part of a written income plan where we can have a realistic withdrawal rate, and that, everybody has their own opinion on this. I'm of the opinion that the first 10 years of somebody's retirement is when they're probably going to spend the most money doing things. Now, again, depending on how somebody passes away and how that happens, you could spend more money on health care your last few years than you did your first few years in retirement. But in my experience, going back to the go-go, the slow-go, and the no-go years, I'm okay if somebody spends a little bit too much money from a percentage standpoint, and I'm not going to say a percentage on here because if I tell somebody you could take 5% out or you could take 6% out or whatever it is, it's okay if you take a higher percentage out in the first few years, in my opinion, knowing that when you slow down, you're not going to do that. You're not going to take out as much. I mean, I think about my parents. They used to do a whole lot more than they do now, and now they don't really get out as much. They're not going They're not going on a cruise anymore. They're not going to fly to Hawaii or go to Alaska. They're going to stay around the house, and it's not super expensive. So their expenses have gone down in the last few years. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to Chick-fil-A or Cracker Barrel hadn't cost them more because of inflation. That does happen, but over time, I just think the expenses will go down, and we model that out. But if somebody wants us to show those expenses going up every year until they die, we can certainly do that, and then we can look at that and make a mutual decision on how to move forward.
So we're talking about the shift to spending here, Lee. I'm sure you've come across and worked with clients that have come in and been in this mindset, and have you ever felt like, hey, this is generally a detriment to your retirement? And if you get to that position, how do you handle that with a client? What kind of conversations do you have?
Yeah, every once in a while that certainly can be something that you look at, because depending on how they look at their assets and what they've accumulated, everybody's different. Sometimes it just changes how people behave. It changes their attitude. I heard something the other day, a multi-millionaire, somebody with $150 million or something like that, ultra wealthy person, passed away, and everybody was like, well, how much did he leave behind? And then there's a wise old person said, all of it. So you can't take it with you, but you want to make sure that you use that money. It's always, we've said it on here before. Money's just a tool. You shouldn't use it as a trophy. Some people, it does become a badge of honor. Years ago, it was, you were the big dog if you had $1 million, and that was a goal for a lot of people. But now there's a lot of people that have $1 million, and there's a lot of those people that would tell you that $1 million is not really a whole lot of money. $1 million doesn't do what it used to do. It just doesn't. So you just have to think about money differently. It's just a tool. The Bible is very clear on the problems that can come with money and how you handle it. So I won't preach here on the podcast today. That's probably a different podcast for a different time. But there's all kind of things about money, and you just have to handle it properly. And I think that's why it helps for somebody to work with a firm like ours who can help somebody put it in perspective and help people make wise decisions with their money. And so that's kind of our firm slogan is we help good people make great decisions so they can have an amazing retirement. That's what we want people to do. And lots of times people will call us and they're on the verge of making an unwise decision, and we can help them just talk through that. And those are great conversations that people really, really appreciate. Again, those are things that go beyond the statement, so to speak.
Yeah, well said. It all begins with planning. Again, you can go to talkwithjlp.com to schedule a meeting now with Lee, or you can call the office at 478-254-3550. And look, just remember, saving is a habit, and habits are hard to break, right? Just because now it's time to start doing things a little bit differently, you can't just turn it off like that for a lot of people. But if you are feeling the same way where it's difficult to spend money, it's worth having a conversation. You can do that by going to talkwithjlp.com or learn more at myretirementclarity.com. All right, Lee, as always, appreciate you walking us through this. I know this is a great topic and one that people struggle with, so I'm glad we brought it here to the podcast, but I hope you have a great week.
I appreciate it, man. You too. Thanks. Hey there, Lee Perkins here. If you're like a lot of folks, you've been listening to this podcast for a long time now. But I've got an important question for you. Have you implemented any of the ideas that we've discussed on the show? If you haven't, what are you waiting on? You know you're not getting any younger. So here's my challenge. Don't just consume the content. Our number one goal for this podcast is to help you close the gap between what you know and what you implement. So if you're ready to implement, take that first step today and visit www.talkwithjlp.com and schedule a 15-minute phone call with one of our advisors, and we'll help you close the gap between what you know and what you implement so you can enjoy the next phase of your life. Now is your time. Don't procrastinate any longer.
Investment advisory services are offered by J.L. Perkins Wealth Management, a registered investment advisor and insurance agency. Information is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute tax, legal, or investment advice. Always consult with a qualified tax, legal, or investment professional before taking any action.